Welcome into the OBR streaming network. We are live with a brand new edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. I see you all filing into the chat. Thank you for doing so. We appreciate your participation every week. Make sure you atone for your sins, hit like and subscribe on your way in or out. We've got special guests here tonight. We want to welcome Abby Mueller to the show. Abby can be followed on X at make sure I get this right, at Abby_Mueller, and she has her own podcast called Just a Girl from Cleveland. How are we doing tonight, Abby?
I'm doing good. Excited to be here and chat some Browns with you guys. I feel like it's the very slow part of the year where you're just trying to come up with anything interesting to say about this team, but it keeps us hungry for the season.
Yeah, it's just going to get slower from here for the next 6 weeks, for honestly. So we have a little bit to talk about tonight. And, of course, we've got a mandatory case up top here, Casey Kinnamon. He is the host of the Barking Browns podcast, Off Leash podcast. And, of course, he co-hosts this show with me. What's happening, Case Dog?
Another beautiful day, you know. They wrapped up camps. Like you said, we're about to go dark until they go to the Greenbrier. But I think they left a lot of meat on the bone, a lot of stuff to talk about tonight.
Yeah, let's hope so. 6 weeks of darkness after this, or let's hopefully darkness, right? We don't want any news popping up anywhere, players getting in trouble, that kind of stuff. What's up to everybody in the chat? Drew, Fumble, I see, what, is that Mike in there? What's up, Mike? Thanks for making an appearance. MC, appreciate you guys all popping in there. And if you're watching on X, hop over to youtube.com/Orange and Brown Report and make sure you hit subscribe over there. All right, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to the main topic that everybody wants to talk about, and that's Amari Cooper not being present at mandatory minicamp for all 3 days, which, missed day one. He's not going to be there. He was at the softball game, so he's in Cleveland, which is kind of strange. I got to admit, everybody's like, I'm not surprised. I was a little surprised. Abby, were you surprised that Amari wasn't there at camp?
Yeah, I think initially my first feeling was surprise for sure. And I think also the just like long-term anxiety that you have as a Browns fan of like a player not showing up. I feel like my instincts took over of like, oh my God, this is bad and this is not going well. But I think after kind of just sitting on it for, a few days after he first missed the initial day, I just feel like I trust this regime to get something done with him. Like I think in, another world, this wouldn't have happened. But I just feel like with the way they are continuing to pay players what they are worth, continuing to show guys who have produced here that they want them, to be around for years to come. I have confidence they're going to be able to get something done with Amari.
Yeah, I do too. And we'll kind of talk about it from both sides. I wrote a piece today on both angles from the team and the player side. Casey, were you surprised?
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought he was just going to, kind of work through it as they went through negotiations. I mean, we could look at the timeline, though. At the Combine, we heard that was going to be a priority, was trying to get him extended. So I would assume that that's when this all began. And I figured they would have had at least a framework worked out and he would be there, especially he was in Cleveland this weekend. So him not being there, I mean, it sends a message. But I also don't know how this might be amicable. And I haven't heard anything definitive on this because the team is well within their rights to fine him. But have they?
It's mandatory. Or is it not mandatory? It's mandatory.
It's up to team's discretion.
Nah, I think it's mandatory once they get to training camp, at least for sure.
Yeah, they could fine him, but it's not. They don't have to.
I think they can make it up on the back end.
Yeah, I think there's something with the back end where they're able to make it up on a deal
in the contract. But I'm pretty sure maybe you're right, but I'm pretty sure at least they were talking about it today. At least on the radio for training camp, they've made it very expensive to hold out through training camp. And I do believe those fines are mandatory, but they could just kind of give it back to you in a bonus or whatever on the back end. So either way, here's kind of the lay of the land, right? If we look at it, he's got some leverage, right? He does. 20 million, no guaranteed. I got to be honest. His agent is David Mulageta. I never know how to say that guy's name. So I probably just butchered it. But either way, he's his agent. He's probably not doing a very good job if you let your player go play. He's the obvious number one without any guaranteed money on his deal. Like, probably not doing your job if you let him show up, get an injury before he can get that money guaranteed. So if you look at it from that angle, I can see it. And then we kind of look at this, right? And this is what I wanted to look at with you guys. So let's hope this works here properly. All right. So the market, right? So the top of the market obviously was reset by Justin Jefferson, 35 million. AJ Brown, 32. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 30. Tyreek Hill, 30. Waddle, 28. Devontae Adams got cut off there, but he's 28. Devontae Adams is 31 years old. And you can make the case, I don't know if you want to make this case because he's probably a one on a lot of teams, but you could make the case that Jalen Waddle is a two.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's accurate. I mean,
would you say he's a
Tyreek
one?
Hill. Tyreek Hill's the one.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
No,
but would
Waddle
you
probably
consider
would be a
him
one on a majority of teams, though?
Majority of teams. Yeah, that's kind of the caveat there, right? So, okay, and Devontae Adams is special, right? 31 years old, he's still producing at a high rate, right? So then you get into Kupp, Smith. I would say Devontae Smith is a two.
Yes.
Right? Nico Collins just got signed. That's his first deal. DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel. I don't know what you want to call Deebo Samuel, but they don't want to pay that money to him at this point. Michael Pittman. That's a newer deal too, right?
Yep. That's this year.
Yeah. All right. So, and then we get to Terry McLaurin, Calvin Ridley. We'll get to that one. Diggs is a really weird deal. They just reworked that. Higgins is on the franchise tag. DJ Moore. I don't believe any of that 20.6 of DJ Moore's deal is guaranteed. And then I can't see past this. What's the last name down there?
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans. That's the other big name we're going to look at here because of age, right? So the main qualifier here is age. So then you get to Cooper, Allen at 20, Chris Godwin, Deontay Johnson, Christian Kirk, and then, of course, Jerry Jeudy. Now, the fact that they brought in Jerry Jeudy and signed him before addressing Cooper would be rather irritating, right? Do you think that, like, a lot of people I heard, like, on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show and some other stuff, them saying that he's mad. I don't think Cooper's mad. I just think he wants his money. Right, Abby?
Yeah. I don't think he's mad, but I think he, realizes it's a business. But from his perspective, like, he is getting a little bit older, and this is probably his last opportunity to get like a substantial deal where he's going to be able to make a good chunk of money before he maybe does some like small 1 year, 2 year deals. So I wouldn't blame him for, maybe being a little bit upset by that and saying like, hey, this is my last chance here.
You don't think he's angry, do you, Casey? Would it piss you off if Jerry Jeudy, they bring in your guy that looks up to you, they sign him to an extension, he hasn't really done anything in the league before they pay you, right? I mean, it could be a little irritating.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a degree of being irritated just because before all that happened, you heard rumors that they were looking to extend him. So the fact they didn't take care of him before making that contract with Jeudy might be a little irritating. But she said it. It's a business. Yeah. And Coop's a businessman. Like, he understands the business of this. This is his third team. His contract has moved him to different places. The Raiders didn't want to pay him. The Cowboys did. And then the Cowboys wanted out of the Amari Cooper business and shipped him to us. So he fully understands this is a business. And he's look at some of those names above him. I mean, to me, it's Calvin Ridley. And people like Nico Collins and Michael Pittman, those are projections really more than the Coop's established. He's year in, year out. He's like the North Star of our wide receiver room. And that gives him the leverage because while I like our wide receiver room, the reason I can feel good about the upside of some of these younger guys is because you have that constant in Cooper. Without him there, this is a lot more uncertain.
Yeah. When you look at it, from his side, right? They have leverage. He knows he's the number one. They don't have another number one, right? So I guess my question is, what do you think he's asking for? Like, I feel like the sticking point is probably years more than anything.
Yeah.
The Browns want to make sure they don't get stuck with him past like 33, which to me is like the 26th season. I don't think you want to end up owing him a lot of guaranteed money going into the 26th season, right? 2 years would be ideal. So if you fully guarantee this year and next year and have an out after that, I think that's probably what the Browns want. He can either look at it two ways, right? Him and his agent. They could be like, sweet, let's try to cash this out as much as we can and get back to the table one more time at 33. Or I don't feel confident in doing that. I'm 33 years old. I want a 4-year deal with guaranteed money into the third year. So there's two ways they could approach this. As far as an APY figure, what do you think he's asking for? Because I think he's asking for higher than like what most projections have him asking for, like 22 or 23. I would be asking for 25.
That's exactly where my mind was, is 25. And I think if you look at the guys on that list, I think he's worth 25.
Yeah.
But like, to your point, what's the difference between what the team believes his longevity is and what he believes? If he wants to play for another 5 years and he truly believes this is his last bite at the apple and they're going to try to get that last big deal, there's going to be too much to bridge there, because there's no way the Browns feel comfortable until he's 35. Traditionally, receivers fall off a cliff at the age of 32. But I will say that Cooper's game will age more gracefully than most because it's not predicated on being twitchy and sudden. He's just a precise route runner.
Yeah, he's a technician more than a raw athlete than anything.
And he's a good athlete, but that's not his calling card. Do you know what I mean? So I think it'll age gracefully, but you can't. There is going to be a drop off at some point, and then all of a sudden you're not going to be worth 25, 22, 20, 18. You know what I mean? It's a sliding scale as he gets older. So it just depends on what he's asking for year-wise.
If I were the Browns, I would be trying to give him, if he wanted 25, I'd be fine to give him 50, add 5 onto this year, make it fully guaranteed, and give him 25 guaranteed next year. But I want an out after the 25 season. Now, do you think that's satisfactory for him, Abby? Do you think he wants a longer deal than that?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on your original point that the years is probably the sticking point here between the two. Like, I think they could agree on a number in terms of the dollars, because I think the Browns have shown to be flexible with that. I think it's going to be more so the number of guaranteed years he has, and he's going to want more than that just at the age he's at in his career.
Casey?
It's just tough to call. I think like from a year perspective, 25 a year, I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing too, is you got to find something that both sides can agree on. And that's tough, especially he's in his prime right now, but we're way closer to the end of that prime than we are at the beginning. This is way different than negotiations you're going to see them go through, like they went with Delpit last year or JOK this year. It's just a different thing. And you made an excellent point in your article. You want to be out a year early as opposed to a year late. You know what I mean?
No doubt. Yeah.
Their negotiations, I can't see them offering more than 3. I just can't see it. Yeah. And that might be the sticking point for him. And in which case, worst case scenario, he's going to have to play out this year on his contract.
Right. Okay. So that's I'm glad you brought that up. So let's pretend for a minute, hypothetically, that they can't. This is why I think the deal gets done. So let's talk about this from both angles. I don't think either of them want to roll the dice of the risk for either side that happens if they don't get this deal done, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so from the Cooper side, right, if you don't get the deal done, you play out this year on the $20 million. If you get injured, you're screwed, right? Because you have no guaranteed money. But beyond that, you once again at age 31 you're in a prove it year at age 31, because you're going to be either on the open market or trying to earn the extension you wanted from the Browns at that point at the end of the year. And in these situations, I think that the team that has had the player for 2 years is often the team that will pay him more because they tend, like with Nick Chubb, we saw, I don't think anybody else was going to give Nick Chubb that kind of money, but they're kind of paying him for past performance, his culture that he brings, his attitude, his leadership, all the things that are great about Nick Chubb, but no other team is going to pay him for those aspects of his game. Same thing with Cooper, right? High character guy, stoic leader, great teacher and mentor in the wide receiver room. Not to mention they don't have anybody close to a 1 after him. So if you do let him play out and walk in free agency, say hypothetically, what are the Browns going to do for a 1 next year? Are you going to spend your first round draft pick on a wide receiver?
I wouldn't doubt that, but just given the track record of this front office, they're going to trade for one.
Ugh.
Yeah, I feel like I think they'd have to trade for one too, because I just think their history of also drafting wide receivers hasn't been super successful. I know they obviously have not taken one in many years and, early rounds, which we finally have again, but I still feel like it's not been like the front office's calling card to find great receivers in the draft.
It's not. And they haven't used a 1, which is a good point. But the thing that I'm worried about is we know Andrew Berry. He doesn't like to go into any draft with anything not taken care of before the draft. Like, he doesn't want to be pigeonholed into taking a wide receiver in the first round with his first round draft pick in 4 years or whatever it is, right? And he might be pigeonholed into taking a tackle there if they don't figure something else out, right? So would you rather give an extension to Amari Cooper or Jedrick Wills? I'd rather give one to Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I mean,
that's not a question.
Yeah.
I thought that was rhetorical.
So, it was, but I just wanted to, that's kind of how you can look at it though, because, if you're going to spend your 1 on a receiver that you hope is a future 1, you run the risk of that not working out and you not having anywhere close to the wide receiver room that you really need. And you run the cost of potentially having to extend a guy like Jedrick Wills, be forced into it because you have no other way to acquire a tackle. Like, acquiring a tackle on the trade market is different than acquiring a wide receiver on the trade market, right? It's just not the same. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That's where I'm at. And then from Cooper's side and the Browns side, I don't think they either want to risk that. So I think they both have a reason to come together, I would say. Would you guys agree with that?
100%. 100%. They understand they're in their winning window. They already know what he is, what he means to the team, what he means to that room. You pointed out in your article, just what he is just off the field too, as you called him a stoic leader. I believe that's true. All those young guys are going to look up to him. I can't envision going in, there's incentives on both sides to get this done. And I have a very positive feeling that they get this worked out by the time they get to the Greenbrier.
Yeah, I think from Cooper's perspective too, I don't think he would want to be in a prove it year when the quarterback is also in a prove it position. Like, that is a tough place for him to be, where he doesn't really know the version he's getting of his quarterback, which heavily obviously will affect his production too. So I think he would rather take a safer bet if he could. Yeah.
I will say that our resident cap expert, Jack Duffin, has the extension going through 2026. He also put out a piece today on Will's extension and what that would look like. He thinks that's actually going to happen. I don't know. We'll see. But we do know they want to have the stuff handled. I mean, listen, I'm not a Jed Wills fan. He was playing a little better before he got hurt last year, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know. What do you think? What are you going to do about tackle? So, I mean, this is the question, right? What are you going to do about tackle 2? Let's ask that question right now. What do you want to do about tackle? Do you want to draft one? Do you want to keep Wills? You don't really have anybody on the roster that's coming up. I mean, you kind of are in a bad spot already because they didn't do what we all wanted them to do and take a tackle this year.
Yeah. Well, I want to start with the Jed Wills thing. I'll feel very uneasy if they extend him before this season. He, to me, is a guy who needs to prove it, who needs to show that he is that guy. Whereas Coop's already the Hayes in the barn. He showed us, like coming off a year with 72 catches for 1250 with a career high 17.4 per reception.
Yeah.
The play is still at the level to merit that kind of money. Whereas if they extend Wills, I'll just feel very uneasy, very uneasy.
If they did, I couldn't imagine it being till like December. You got to see something from him first.
Must. For me, that's a must.
What do you think, Abby?
I feel like you mentioned this earlier, but like tackle is one of those positions that is extremely hard to trade for or just find like free agent talent for. Like they don't really come up in free agency. The really talented tackles are getting additional contracts in the team that they're already on. So it is unfortunate that, I feel like we haven't drafted talent there to kind of make up for that. So I think they're in a really kind of uncomfortable position with it where if it isn't Jed, there aren't a ton of, great options out there because of, how they prepared for it.
When we look at the draft, who are coming off a historic year of offensive tackle in the draft. And I'm early in my draft preparation for next year, but a lot of the top guys are like they're projected to convert to guard. Whereas wide receiver is a conveyor belt of talent coming out of college. So you'd feel better about that part of it if that's the route you had to go.
Pete has been clamoring about that. On all the way too early draft, things that all the tackles are, projected to be converted to guard in the first round, which is not a good sign if you are forced into that situation. So to Jack's point, I guess, if you could pay league average money for a league average tackle with Wills, would you do it? I mean, the more you talk about it, it sounds a little bit better, even though you hate the idea of Jed Wills standing around watching the quarterback get sacked, right?
Because if you get that version of Jed Wills, it is just standing around watching the quarterback get hit. Then you can't. I don't know. I don't know what plan B is. We've talked ad nauseum about moving DeWand over. Like I'm not in favor of it, but if that's the way this plays out, I could be talked into it pretty easily.
And to move into the left side?
If that's the way it plays out, yeah.
I want to hear you and Pete have this debate because he says it's no problem. Move him over.
Okay. Sign me up, man. I'll have the debate with him, but I don't know.
I want to hear that debate. I tend to want to leave him where he is too, but I think he's going to be a really good tackle, so he's probably worth more on the left side would be my one point. If you can get him to work out. Thoughts on moving tackles around, Abby?
I mean, it's not ideal. I feel like we keep coming back to that with this conversation of like, we're not in a great situation at the position in general. I'd prefer to leave DeWand where he is, but I guess if that's something that they have to broach because there's not other talent out there, then I'm not like 100% against it.
Yeah. You may be forced into it.
Yeah, right. I feel like it's not going to be something people are cheering for, but might have to do it.
All right, you're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. 620 of you watching right now. If you're watching on X, please hop over to youtube.com/Orange and Brown Report. Hit like and subscribe. Thank you all for participating. I've seen all your comments in here. You guys are very active tonight, and I appreciate it. A couple people, good point. Abby, I missed a bunch of stuff. Sorry, guys. I was caught up in conversation here. So, all right. I did want to go over real quickly while we were on the topic before we get to our next thing here is the other interesting holdouts or hold-ins around the league, right? So Aaron Rodgers not at mandatory minicamp. So this was not excused. Now, tell me I'm not crazy. Why would they not just say it's excused?
Why would Saleh say that? Okay, just to
he made it so much worse. Yeah.
Why?
He made it so much worse.
Just say it's excused. It has to be like honestly, and this is gonna sound like a joke. He has to be on like an ayahuasca trip or something, right? Like, what the hell would he have that's so important right now that he's had scheduled for months? Like, is this the only time his shaman could get free? I don't.
Everyone said that this might be his way to get into politics, as everyone was talking about. Maybe he's on the campaign trail or something.
I think he's spelunking down a YouTube wormhole.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
What a mess, though. I mean, if you're going to let him go, and you already know he's going, and he's been at OTAs, every day of OTAs up, why would you say it's not excused?
That's bad leadership.
Yeah.
Stefanski would never.
Salah's a little thick sometimes, I think. Like, I still not a fan. Anyways, Hassan Reddick wants out of the Jets badly, it sounds like, or he wants a new contract. So Jamar Chase did warm-ups and then put on tennis shoes and stood there for the rest of practice. So he is officially a hold-in at this point. So
I feel like it's almost like worse and more embarrassing for the team for him to just be like standing there watching.
I ain't doing shit.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you're just going to stand there.
Didn't TJ Watt do this 2 years ago?
This is the new thing, right? To avoid getting fined.
Yes.
Yeah.
You go in and you. Kareem Hunt did it. He was a hold-in.
Yeah, didn't do any team drills.
Did not do any team drills. So didn't get him anything. Although he's not as talented as Jamar Chase. So
yeah, be who you can afford to be.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I thought those ones were interesting. Jamar Chase, I mean, you would think with everything going on, they haven't paid Higgins.
He's not there. Yeah.
He's not, I don't think they're going to pay him. They're going to play him out on this and then whatever trade and try to find a trade, do whatever, but they're not going to give him an extension. The extension is for Chase. Don't you think he would know that by now? Like, somebody in the front office has gone to him and been like, hey, the really good wide receiver that lines up across from you every week that we're not going to pay? That's so we can pay you. So maybe you want to participate.
You would think, but look, man, in this day and age, receivers, they be making crazy choices, and Jamar Chase is at the top of that list.
Yeah. I feel like it's almost out of principle, too. It's like this is like standard operating procedures for guys looking for new deals at this point, that it's kind of like, all right, this is what we do.
It's true. Yeah, you're right. Like, it's almost like the union probably, like, they kind of encourage this kind of stuff because they want the max payday for everybody. Yeah. Anyways, interesting stuff there. All right, so a lot of people have concerned, including you, Casey, and I wanted to talk about this just for a second. It's a kind of a hot button topic. I read, you said something about this in one of your articles about Coop, I think, or maybe it wasn't about Coop, but it was about Watson's restructure, right? So I had to do this. I do these stand-ups with I got people at the OBR for CBS where I just kind of lob questions to people, and I was doing it with Jack Duffin the other day, and I asked him about the Watson restructure. And a lot of people are concerned, like, hey, they don't have enough money to do this extension with Cooper. They're going to have to restructure Watson now. Oh, no, like, that's a huge deal. Jack says it's not a big deal at all. Says it doesn't matter. It's actually probably the best way to do it. I think you disagree with that. Is that right, Casey?
If you're trying to keep your options open to get out of the Watson business, if this thing crashes into the mountain this year, I think.
Okay. Here's his point, though, right? So you have to pay the $230 no matter what. So how are you going to get out of the? What's your hypothetical get out of the trade him?
No, I mean you basically saw the blueprint from Denver. You're going to.
So you're just going to eat the money.
There's going to be what's going to happen is you're going to have more void years. You'll be paying for this guy, counting. He'll get the money, yes, but that's going to count against your salary cap for the next how many years if you restructure his contract again. It just furthers the damage that contract's going to do to you.
I guess,
Instead
or
of
you can eat it all,
ripping it off and being done in 2 years.
Yeah, and I guess his point is either way, like with
the
cap
money
going.
Way.
Yeah, you have to pay it no matter what. With the cap going up every year, if you can lower the percentage of the cap that it's affecting you, even if you were to try to get out of the deal, which probably isn't going to happen. And his hypothetical was you could try to trade him and save some money on the deal. But if he's worth anything more than like 10 or 15 million for another team to take off of your plate, you probably want to keep him because his performance would have earned that. So and plus the rollover money it creates kind of pays for itself on the back end, right? Because we know that the rollover cap money is beneficial.
Yeah, because if the cap goes up year over year like it's been doing,
yes,
then yeah.
I just wanted to throw it out there. I don't know. I think people are kind of freaking out like, oh, no, we can't restructure him it's going to limit what we do. You're going to pay the money either way. It's whether you rip it off now or spread it out, right?
Yeah, I think if they were going to touch his contract, they'd have already done it.
I think they're going to restructure it no matter what. Honestly. Remember the end of last season when they started restructuring everybody for rollover cap?
Yeah, well, but they left Coop and Chubb alone. That was the two they didn't.
I get that's a good point. I guess you're going to pay the money no matter what. I guess I would spread it out as much as I could.
Yeah, I think your point that you brought up that Jack mentioned about the cap going up every year, I feel like that's what this team like lives on, is the idea of the cap continuing to increase every season. So I wouldn't be shocked if that's how they're looking at it.
Yeah. Red Leader, what are you talking about, bro? We've got crazy chat going on in here. Yes, I do. Red Leader, yes, I do. All right. So, all right, we did the hypothetical. We did the first round pick. All right, so other holdouts. And, all right, let's get to some Watson stuff from today. Did you guys see those throws? Are we making a big deal out of throw? I don't want to make this zip gate or anything like that, right? Like, 'cause it doesn't really matter. It is what it is now, right? So, let's look at a couple of these, right? I mean, he did let one rip, right?
Yeah, he pushed it down the field more today, considerably.
Yeah, Paul Spencer. Yeah, no, we're not measuring zip. We're not on zip watch. I apologize. But I did think the one throw where he went out to his left, and, I mean, he just let it rip to more. I mean, what was that, a 50, 60-yard throw? That's the first time I've seen him do that. Yes. It didn't seem like there was any restraint at all on his arm at that point. So, let's take a look. Hopefully, I have no idea which one is which, so this is a total crapshoot here. All right, here we go. Like it usually is on this show. So, this is it. I mean, last day of mandatory camp, I don't mind seeing that.
Yeah, I feel like it gives me confidence from like an injury perspective that he is, getting more comfortable. Where I draw the line is when people start to get way too excited about what this means for like the coming season. I just can't get my brain wrapped around that, where I'm like, all right, guys, calm down. We, especially considering last season, I feel like what he struggled so much with a lot of times was honestly like the speed of the game and like those type of things he felt a little bit, behind on, like he wasn't seeing the field. So it looks great, but I'm like, let's see that on Sundays.
I agree 100% with Abby, but every year I'll fall victim. We'll get about second week of August. I'll see something, and all of a sudden it means something definitive in my head.
Yes.
So, I'm going to try to hold that back now and at least wait till August before I get ridiculous.
We're so starved for football. Like you get one of these clips and you just hold on to it like it's everything. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Abby. I mean, it doesn't mean anything. But as far as an injury, I mean, I haven't seen him throw it over 20 yards yet. Yeah. I'm not saying this is going to mean that the season is good, but in an injury way, to just see him kind of just let one fly, I think is a good sign.
You heard it here first. Book your ticket to the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Look at that, though. I mean, mechanically off platform, plenty of arm on it. You like
it's a good throw, too.
Yeah. Gave your guy a chance.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Elijah Moore here in a minute, because I heard that's, you guys all know, I know, I have a man crush on Elijah Moore, but I'm going to be super biased, but we're going to do it anyways. What are you laughing at, Casey?
At least you admit it up front.
I do. I admit it up front. I'm biased. All right. Here we go. I don't know which one this one. Oh, that's not very impressive, but okay. There's another one.
Get that on the upfield shoulder, man.
Yeah. Don't make him turn back like that, right? And then finally, this was probably the best throw of the day, I think, to or that was on tape. I mean, that's a dart, right? It's a Darden. I forgot Jalen Darden was on this roster until that catch. Totally. But good throw, though, right? I mean, what's this, 25 yards downfield? Over the shoulder?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean anything to Abby's point, but
It's better than
health-wise,
Bring down the vibes, you know.
soft pitches we've been seeing. We've been seeing a lot of soft stuff out of the backfield to the flats, not NFL throws. He's throwing football mechanically, but that's an NFL throw.
yeah. Bodes well. Doesn't mean anything for the thing, but I'm glad that at least in a manner of health, research had some zip. That had some zip.
Is back.
Yeah. All right. So I want to talk about. I heard my guy Ken Carmen this morning call Elijah Moore a lame duck wide receiver going into his final year of his deal. Judy's extension, Amari's is probably coming. So we got to talk about this because this is my guy, and I don't want him to leave, but I do want our young players to, develop. And he kind of does. He doesn't really block it this year, but I don't know. You tell me. Okay, so Abby, this guy. The reason I like him, he's freaking maniac of a hard worker. He's got Kobe Bryant mentality. He lives, dies for football. He wants it so bad. And I think he could be really good in this offense. But what does he have to do as wide receiver 3 because you are kind of blocking your younger receivers if you give him an extension. So what does he have to do to garner an extension this year, numbers wise, you think?
Yeah, I feel I'm just learning now that you have a man crush on him. So I'm sorry that I'm probably not going to have the same results here. But I feel like he is just in a really weird spot on this team based on the other talent that they have in the room. So obviously, we think they're probably extending Cooper. They just paid Jerry Jeudy. You still have Njoku, obviously not in the wide receiver room, but is going to be taking up a large amount of the targets. I just struggle to figure out where he's going to be getting all of the targets. I know people say this, but there is one ball. There's only so many targets that can be had in any given game. I think last season he had about a little over 600 yards, I want to say, receiving. And I think, in order to, I feel justify an extension of any sort, you'd want him to be exceeding those numbers. I just really have a hard time of where those numbers are going to be coming from when you have all those other guys out there. You also mentioned obviously wanting to get some of the younger guys involved too. Tillman, some of the other young guys. So I'm interested to see how much they really choose to use him out there.
Case.
A couple factors here. Obviously, Cooper actually holding out's a good thing for him. It gives him the opportunities to get out there and show what he can do in this offense. But the bottom line is they traded for him last year to be what they picked up Jeudy to be now. So you fell down one in the pecking order already. So you're wide receiver 3, but in reality, you're pass option number 4 because you got Njoku.
Right.
So it's going to be hard to see the opportunities he would need to see to and what's the contract look like for wide receiver 3? This wide receiver market's going ape shit, but with Jeudy getting 17.5, if he does play to the best of his abilities and is efficient, what, 12 million?
Right. That's the problem, right? What money is left to even pay the guy if he does show out, right? You almost have to go with a guy on a rookie deal at that point, or else. The one possibility here is because you are going from paying 5 guys on the offensive line, massive contracts, to probably cutting down on that a lot if you get Zach Zinner to step up, right? And you've got DeJuan Jones filling in a tackle on a rookie deal. So it could free up some money for the wide receiver room. I hope.
Your dream's not completely dead, Brad. I'm not trying to say your dream's dead.
So... here's my case: is I think he's going to be really good in this offense because of the the choice routes and stuff. I think he will excel at that. They misused him for the first half of last year with all the gimmick bullshit. Pete blames it on the Browns defense that they were letting him get in rounds for 20 yards in practice every day, and that's why they kept trying it with more during the games. But which is funny. It's kind of funny, right? But
funny.
anyways, I think that all the bubble screens and gimmicks and all the shit that's not what he does best. What he does best is run routes downfield. Even though he's smaller, he's more of an outside wide receiver. Like I see this thing as Cooper and Moore on the outside and Judy in the slot. That's the way it's probably gonna. The majority of the time you're in 11 personnel. That's probably what it looks like, right? So, yes, he's gonna have to struggle to find catches. But if he went for another 600 yards and scored 4 or 5 touchdowns, I'd be tempted to try to give him a mid-level exception or exception. That's the NBA mid-level extension.
Yeah, that's not unreasonable. And I'm not worried about what you said about earlier, because if anything, if he's going to shove any of the wide receivers down, the next guy up from the young guys would be David Bell. If Moore gets the contract that forces Bell out, I'm not going to lose any sleep.
The next guy out would be David Bell?
For second-year players. Huh?
The next guy out would be David Bell, or the next guy up?
No, the next guy up for a contract that wouldn't get it because he got his contract. In the pecking order of the wide receivers would be Bell, and that's a nothing burger for me.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Bell at all. Tillman got some praise from Stefanski today, if you heard that. He noted that he has not missed a day.
Did say that.
Yeah.
He looks good, too. He looks like he's been in the weight room. He looks strong. He looks bigger in his shoulders and arms. But they really want him to take a step forward, right? Like, that's the guy they're really looking for to take a step forward. Because he's different, right? He's different than anybody else they have. If he can... The thing with him, and we've talked about this, and it's between it's the helmet. It's not the physical attributes. It's like... Is he going to be able to read defenses and run these choice routes on the same page as Watson? Because we saw him getting yelled at a lot last year for, choosing the wrong way to go in those type of situations and not being on the same page or not lining up in the right spot.
And refining his route tree, he was limited in what he could run. If you want to be available, you got to be able to have a full route tree at your disposal. And coming out of Tennessee, he just didn't. Sorry, MC. I hope you had your ears plugged for all that.
Yeah, Tennessee, they just tell him to run in a straight line, and they get over.
And he was good at it.
Yeah, he was. Abby, so of the 4 guys, Jamari, so it's like Tillman and Thrash, David Bell, and Mike Woods are like the 4 guys, right? It's a nice 4 young players. Do you have a favorite of who you think steps up this year?
Yeah, I feel like I've already been getting the vibes that Tillman is going to be like the camp darling this summer that fans are going to like fixate on. Just based on I know you said Stefanski had some high praise for him this offseason. I also think Deshaun was talking about that as well and the hard work he's seen from him and the time he's been putting in. So I actually feel like we could see some good things from him during camp this year.
It reminds me of the buzz around Donovan Peoples-Jones going into his second year.
I was just going to say that, yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
He was camp darling every year, right?
He was.
Every year.
And he came back bigger, and every year they noted what he looked like when he got there. And
yeah, I feel like a little deja vu here, but that's all right. So I don't know. Do we have anything else here? No, we did that last week. Okay. So that's it for that. So is he a lame duck? Tell me, is he done?
Not necessarily. You said, what's the ceiling? What's the ceiling for him? And is that acceptable to him? If he plays to the top of his capabilities and he's super efficient on the targets that he sees and he scores 6-8 touchdowns, he really balls out. Is he going to want to sign here for 12 or go somewhere else for 18 to 20 based on what this market is?
Drew says Moore's gone if Tillman plays decent. Gone by the trade deadline. Holy shit, Drew. Okay. I don't think they'll trade him at the trade deadline. Do you?
I hope we're not sellers. I hope when we get to the trade deadline,
Yeah.
Well, we
on the other
sold
side of
DPJ when we actually really needed
I
him
know.
for the
I
rest
don't
of
want
the
to talk
season.
about it. I'm still
That
mad.
was a weird move still.
So stupid. So dumb.
Very
he played
random.
he played like 3 downs in Detroit. So, I get why they wanted to make room for Tillman,
Yeah, he wasn't ready. They had to know that.
but he just
Me and Chad O'Shea are still at odds. I don't know. I don't know what was
Yeah.
going on there, but I just know Flacco could have used DPJ.
you and Chad
what I
Shea
do
are
know.
still at odds. Have you voiced your opinion to him personally?
Look, man, I don't get how you're going to clean the entire closet of assistant offensive coaches and you're going to keep the one guy who, to me, hasn't shown anything. I haven't seen any development out of that room, and you've taken swings, not high level swings, but you're getting these mid level guys who are decent athletes, enough production in college that you think you could get something out of them. And over the course of a season, I didn't see any progression out of Tillman. You know, for me, that comes down to coaching. He's a good enough athlete.
Yeah. I don't know. All right. You're watching All Eyes on Cleveland. My name is Brad Ward. That's Abby Mueller, special guest here tonight. Make sure you check out her podcast, Just a Girl from Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Did I get it right?
That's
All right.
it. Yep.
All right. And that can be found where all popular podcasts are found.
Yep. All the
Absolutely.
places.
Check it out. And it's at Abby_Mueller on X or Twitter. And at Casey_Kinnamon, barking rounds off the leash. And, of course, every week here on All Eyes on Cleveland. All right. We're going to do Thing or Not a Thing. All right. Fun little game we like to do from time to time. Is this something of relevance? Does it matter, or is it a nothing? We used to call it, what did we used to call it? I used to call it something else. Clickbait or, what was it? Do you remember? Casey?
Deal or no deal. I don't know.
No, not deal or no deal. No. I forget. Hot take or clickbait. But that's kind of corny. So we're just doing thing or not a thing. All right. Let's start easy here. Watson's throws in 7-on-7 today. Thing or not a thing, Casey?
It's a thing. I saw him make actual throws. I feel confident that his shoulder's healing. I'm going to say it's a thing.
I'm going to have to go the opposite of not a thing, just based on my take that I can't, just for my own well-being, I cannot allow myself to get too excited over camp throws.
It's June 13th, right? I get it. Not a thing. She's not a thing, your thing. Listen, there's no winners in this. It's just, so. But, I think it's a little bit of a thing. Just health-wise, I'm glad to see him do it.
Just
right?
ramped up a little bit.
Just
a little bit, a smidge.
I mean, we saw him. I mean, he really let the one go. That's the first time we've seen that. And we're not going to see him for 6 weeks. I was glad to see that before he leaves, right? So, I don't know.
Going to be playing those clips on repeat for 6 weeks just to hold us over, We got to.
Well, that's a
have
thing.
right.
That is a thing. That's happening.
That is a definite thing right there. All right. So, Jerry Jeudy's absence the last 2 days from mandatory. I mean, he was there, but they're saying a minor injury, did not participate. Thing or not a thing, Abby?
Not a thing. I don't think I'm too concerned, especially at this point in time. Like, they're going to have some time off here. I think everything is probably going to be okay.
Not a thing, although it was puzzling that first day because he didn't even come outside. To me, that's weird. But not a thing. I mean, it's June 13th. I think and I've seen tons of video of him also working this summer. So,
yeah, it's definitely not a thing. I think you guys are right, but it was annoying. Like, I want to see Jerry Jeudy, right? I want to see clips of Jerry Jeudy.
You want to unwrap it?
He's the new toy, exactly. Like, we want to see him. Come on, and why would he not even come outside and watch practice the day before?
That was weird. There were tons of guys not practicing on Aerodyne bikes. You could have just hung out, walked with Chubb, whatever.
He was just standing around talking with Dustin Hopkins today. He could have done that yesterday. I don't get it.
It's a little weird.
Chat. MC Lawrence praising Abby is too level-headed for this show. Nice.
Facts.
Just wait till the season
That's the
happens.
thing.
I lose all level-headedness at that point. So
That's the thing, MC.
All right. Sorry, I was trying to. MC Lawrence said he just gave you a follow.
thanks.
Drew is a troublemaker, no doubt. I'm just kidding. I appreciate you, Drew. Detroit might need him. Well, they won't. They don't need him. Detroit's loaded, right? They're not, is Donovan? You think Donovan Peoples-Jones
That
is contribute this
thing,
year?
yeah.
You think Peoples-Jones will contribute this year?
I didn't know he was even there. I know they. I didn't know if he had anything left on his contract.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I
Put it in
actually
a
don't even
contract.
know.
Yeah.
That's a great point. He was out of years, wasn't he?
Unless they
Who
worked out something
signed?
under the radar that I
Yeah,
didn't
maybe
see.
they did. I don't remember seeing anything.
I mean, I felt good for him going back to where he's from. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't mad at it at the time. And then Flacco happened, and then I got really mad about it.
He's
You know, the
still
other
there.
weird thing about making that move when they did too is like we were going to be making a playoff push. That was kind of the goal. And like injuries happened towards the end of the season. Like it's such a risky move to get rid of a player that you know can produce when you just have no idea what's going to happen at that point. Everyone's so beat up. Not to get angry about it, but
Yeah.
No, I was heated at the time. I agree, Abby, and it makes no sense because you really didn't have any depth at the position, and you're forcing a younger player into the role where really he was just running wind sprints. They weren't throwing the ball at all.
His
But
cardio was elite, though.
he's a tremendous blocker, though,
Yeah.
and so Tillman took his spot, and he turns out to be a good blocker too. But he was just running wind sprints as well, you know. So I mean.
yeah.
But to your point, they had nothing behind that as far as depth that you could really run out there beyond your boy David Bell, who I have no confidence in. So,
It looks like the comments they said Detroit did re-sign DPJ.
yeah, I just looked it up. I was just going to say they have him in Detroit. 1 year, $2 million. Thanks, Fumble. Our crack staff on top of it here. Appreciate it. So he is back with the Lions. That's a tough wide receiver room to crack, right?
Yeah,
Some talent.
should be.
They have one of the best. I think I was listening to a podcast yesterday. They were ranking the rosters in the NFL, and I think they had the Lions roster. PFF had the Lions roster like third overall in the NFL.
Wow.
That seems high. But
Where'd they
Yeah,
have the
man.
Browns?
They had the Browns so they got into a big conversation about this. Sam Monson brought up the Browns, and he was like, listen, if you go 2 through 53 and take out the unknown about Watson, they're top 5.
Yeah.
But they had him at like 14 or 15, I think.
Wow.
And then
that tax is brutal.
that's the Watson tax.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, I get dropping us a little for that, but I feel like that's a pretty
far.
significant drop there.
especially after they just proved that they can win with
Without-
mediocre quarterback play,
Yeah.
right? So
I think a lot of people are projecting a decline on the defense too, because defense is so inconsistent from one year to the next. You just like assume most of the time there's going to be a drop off, but I don't know. I guess we'll have to see.
yeah, and I agree. I think a lot of people are like predicting a regression to the mean on the defense. It's so hard to be first in all those metrics, right? And now you have all those games on tape, and they were exposed in that playoff game. So the theme is kind of like, hey, here's the answer to the Browns defense. It's out there if you want to look hard enough for it, right? Shallow crossers and yeah. So
And Jim Schwartz is like the type of guy that like knows what he does well and kind of sticks to it. Like I think we're all hoping he's going to evolve in some ways, but I'm sure that's kind of part of the projection too of just Jim Schwartz and how he runs the defense.
which is why it's so good that Mike Vrabel's there and they get those change-ups going. They keep, even Miles was talking change-ups today.
Yep.
So
Every
Yeah,
time
but
I see a
That
picture,
basketball is going to get a lot of people out.
yeah. Every time I see a picture of Vrabel, just with the team. I just forget every time that he's like a part of this team now. It's still kind of crazy that happened.
It's pretty epic, actually.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, all right, back to our game. Sorry, got lost there for a minute. We're back to it. All right, so this is a good one, I think. Matt Landers catching 7 deep balls for touchdowns in OTAs and minicamp. So, according to Nathan Zagura, he caught 7 passes. They were all like 50 yards or longer for touchdowns. This dude is a freak. We went down the Raz rabbit hole a couple weeks ago, me and you, and he has a freakish Raz score. He's like 6'4", 6'5", runs like a 4.2 40. Yeah, and he caught a long one today. So, thing or not a thing?
A thing for the practice squad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, sure.
That's not a thing.
That's a thing for the practice squad, man.
That's not an improper answer.
We
Incorrect.
spent so much time talking about Austin Watkins Jr.
I was just gonna say he's gonna be in Austin Watkins Jr.
It's a thing.
He is.
Yeah.
You think
Where
it's a thing?
everyone's like extremely angry when he doesn't make the 53 and then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I don't. It's not a thing. You're right. Are you both saying it's a thing or no?
I'm saying no.
For the active roster, no. It's a thing for the practice squad. It's a thing for the preseason.
So it's not a thing. Yeah. So it'll be good in the preseason. I mean, he's a freak athlete. I just don't think there's room for him. No matter what he does, right?
Right.
So.
What a good
Sorry.
problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, Matt Landers. All right. Okay, we got a couple here. Okay, Jacques Caesar. I can never Caesar salad. Yeah. Did I get it right the first time? All right. Talking up Isaiah McGuire in his presser like he's going to contribute this year. Thing or not a thing, Abby?
I had not seen that. So that's my first time hearing about that. Interesting. I'm going not a thing. I don't know. I just I don't know if I see it. Maybe maybe some like longer term potential there, but I don't know about, this season.
It's tough.
It would take an injury for it to be a thing.
Yeah.
Because even if he's active on the roster, he's still the 5th edge. Like that's
right.
Slim pickings, man. That is slim pickings out there.
Okay. So just to play devil's advocate, because I just like doing that for the hell of it on here.
Might as well.
They carried him on the roster all last year, right? They're going to go 10 deep. They're probably going to have 5-man in rotation on the defensive line. Why not have 5 on the edge too?
Because Miles is going to play 80% of the snaps.
That's a good answer. He also in the same presser said that Alex Wright could have double-digit sacks this year.
From his mouth to God's ears, let's go.
Is he talking out his ass or what?
That's a big prediction.
Yeah, that's not a thing.
Neither are things, right?
Ogbo could be a thing at 10.
Yeah,
He might
sure.
flirt with it.
Yeah, he could do it. I think you guys are right. Ultimately, I think he probably makes the roster. He's that 5th guy, but I can't imagine him taking anything more than a token snap here or there unless somebody got injured. To your guys' point. So, but he was hyping him up big time, and I think that's okay. It's good to have young, good edges on your team. They've got a couple. Isaiah Thomas and Lonnie Phelps are pretty talented as well. So.
Yeah. Well, even as we're saying, like, unless there's an injury, like there's always injuries. So the chances are high of needing some of these guys we're talking about to step up at some point.
Miles pulled a hammy today.
Yeah, I know. That always stops my heart a little bit whenever you see a Miles tweet out there.
It's crazy. Okay. So, I think this is our last one, but this is a good one though, and it's going to bring up our final topic of the night here. Even though I hate the whole, so I'm convinced of this now, and I'm going to talk about this first. I'm convinced that all the talk about the kickoff is just giving players and coaches an opportunity to talk about something that doesn't matter at all, and they're just taking that time to eat up all their press time so they don't have to answer real questions. That's what I swear. When Stefanski gets asked about the kickoff, he talks about it for like 20 minutes.
Yep.
All the coaches do the same thing. The players are all talking about it all around the NFL. They've all gotten together. It's a huge conspiracy of just a way not to answer questions about the plays that actually matter.
That's the thing.
I kind of agree. Like I think that is they have been talking about it a lot. I don't know if either of you saw this. I feel like they said some player that like volunteered to do the like it was someone really out of the box, and I can't remember who it was.
Justin Reed, or for the Browns?
I think it was it, or was it another team maybe?
Justin Reed did for
I did see that. Yeah.
Chiefs, and DeAnthony Bell did for the Browns.
Okay, yes, no, that's what I was thinking. But yeah, I just feel like they're just gonna like players are just gonna want to get involved in it because it's something different and fun for them to try to do.
Yeah.
Well, Miles, so he was like, "Yeah, I'd go out there," and then he pulls his hamstring. You better not go out there.
Don't get him out there.
No, he's not allowed.
No.
It's similar, I feel like, to last season when Hopkins got hurt and David Njoku was offering repeatedly to make the kick. Like I feel like he's gonna want to get involved in this for sure.
He was seriously pissed, and so was Stefanski. He was like, "I can make it, coach."
Yeah.
Remember, he was like screaming at him.
Yeah.
Like, dude. You're not kicking the extra point. Get out of my face.
Those situations are mind-blowing to me because when you make it to that level, you've been the man your whole life. There's got to be guys who were kickers in high school who were linebackers or wide receivers, and as they got older, obviously that specialization goes away and you focus on your position. But you could probably kick a 30-yard down the middle type field goal. I would be shocked if JOK at some point wasn't a kicker.
Yeah. Oh, I could so see that for him. Yeah.
JOK could do anything. Like he can. I mean,
he can sing.
Really could. Yeah, he can sing.
Not at all.
Yeah, he's got his new. What country is he from? Nigeria.
Mm-hmm. He's the representative for the pathway stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got his Nigerian clothesline that everybody's buying. All these. I don't know what they're called. I don't want to be offensive.
Dashikis.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I took a stab.
Yeah, something like that. But they, all these people are buying them and stuff. All right. Anyways, we got way off topic there. All right, but back to the kickoffs. Okay, so I heard this today, looked it up. This is a true fact. Okay, so thing or not a thing, especially for the Browns. Okay, 20 to 25% of the kickoffs in the XFL when this rule was in effect there, right? Because they don't use it in the new spring league, right? But when it was being used, 20 to 25% of the kickoffs involved the kicker in the tackle. Mm-hmm. Thing or not a thing?
Not a thing.
What do you mean not a thing? You want Dustin Hopkins involved in 20% of the returns? We can't have him hurt again.
That's what I'm saying. That's not the reason I'm saying it's not a thing. Like we can't. He tried to make one tackle last year. He tried to make one tackle when it was a wrap.
That's what I'm saying. So if this is going to have the kicker involved,
those coaches need fired if their kicker was involved in that many tackles on kickoff.
Crazy.
That's what the stat is, and I'm like,
and
okay,
get Anthony Bell's ass out there.
That's my point, right? That's my point. Like that is a thing. I don't want Hopkins hurt.
It ain't going to be a thing. That isn't.
Yeah, you don't think that translate to the NFL? Maybe it won't translate in the same way.
Better coaching, better players.
Yeah, I would hope so.
I hope.
If you see they have that stat too, they're like, well, so I want Dustin Hopkins in on 20%. No, and then that's the reason the Scottish Hammer would have been perfect for this.
Someone made a comment that Anthony Schwartz, big soccer fan, so it's perfect opportunity to bring him back into the building.
We brought back that the kicker. What's his name?
York.
Send York out there. Who cares if he gets hurt?
That's
he is
cool.
back.
That's cool.
Right. Make that draft pick worth something. Right? I to me, this is the thing. I don't want Dustin Hopkins kicking the ball if he's going to be involved in 20 to 25% of the returns, Casey. You think
Yeah,
this just doesn't translate to the NFL?
there's no way special teams coordinators are seeing that stat and they're devising ways to not make that a thing where their kickers involved in that many collisions.
Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna have him run off the field?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Because, all right, so I hear all these people. We'll keep talking kickoff for a second because we're on the topic.
Because you're
I hear
doing what
all these.
Stefanski does now. Now for 20 minutes,
I
we're going to
am.
talk about this thing.
I am. I promise this is it. I hear all these people talking about like, even Zagura today on CBD was like, there's gonna be house calls left and right with this new kickoff. There's no way. What are we talking about? Like, they're just going to play it like a normal defense. I don't understand why people think like it's going to be like there's one line of defense, and if you break through, you're going to the house. Like, what are we talking about? As far as kick coverage, don't you think they'll layer it like a normal defense?
Think back to 2007, all of a sudden the Wildcats happening, right? And at first it was bedlam. Like, no one knew how to stop it. And about 4 or 5 games into it, like, they settled in, and then it was just a normal thing that you saw every now and again. It's going to be this. Yeah, it's new and it's weird and it's different, and each teams are going to be doing different things, but like, it's going to become a normalized football play, and there might be an incremental uptick in house calls, but like usually in an NFL season, you only get 2 or 3 kickoffs return for touchdowns anyway. Is that number going to be 5 or 6 over the course of an entire season? It isn't making that much of a difference to me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Abby?
Yeah, I feel like, the example of just like teams adjusting to things as the season goes on definitely applies to this, where like maybe the first couple of games you're seeing some just like funky plays happening while teams are trying to figure it out. But I think once guys get a hold of what they're doing, I don't think it's going to be as out of the box as people are making it seem.
Yeah. Logan agrees with you. I agree with Casey. Might take a week or 2 to adjust and correct. Probably good for preseason. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, nobody knows what other teams are going to, how each team's going to handle it a little bit different. But once one team figures it out, the Copycat League is going to take effect, and everybody's going to be like, oh, okay, this is how we play it. So I can't imagine there being a huge uptick in returns for touchdowns. Do you guys think so?
I mean, it won't be huge. Here's the problem. That's a play that is hard to practice live. That's hard to get live looks at that. So it's going to be on the fly in preseason games, beginning of the regular season. But I think, just like Abby said, they'll settle in.
Yeah, you're right. Like, guys aren't practicing that full speed in practice ever. That is a very in-game situation.
Yeah, I mean, it would be very hard to replicate. So we decided. I mean, what do you want to do with the kicker? We just think that we're going to leave this in the hands of OG Philly with a nice compliment, by the way, Abby.
Thank you.
Such a radio / podcaster voice, very professional. All right.
Thank you.
All right. So you just want to you're going to trust that Bubba is going to handle this, and you don't have to worry about your kicker getting involved 20 to 25% of the times on kickoffs? Or are we going to get somebody else kicking the ball back there? Take your turn. You can go first, Casey.
Look, if those stats are real, and that's really what's going to happen in the NFL, then I want my kicker nowhere near that mess.
Right. Yeah.
I just don't think that they're going to allow that. I don't think that they're going to scheme for that.
So you're trusting in Bubba?
Yes.
To protect our
Bubba
kicker.
To kick it and make the tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm in agreement. Like, I just have to believe that they're seeing those numbers you're seeing. There's no way they're letting that happen. I believe in them.
You believe in the kick return team?
And Bubba.
Yeah. And Bubba. And Bubba.
You letting that happen.
All right, so not a thing. The chat seems to agree. So we're basically just calling XFL a bunch of slappies then, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
XFL slander.
Yeah, there we go. XFL could not figure it out. NFL will. That's the thing. All right, and then you mentioned this to me at the top of the show. It's worth bringing up real quickly. Trevor Lawrence inked a 5-year, $275 million deal with $200 million guaranteed. That's a thing, and that is creeping closer to Deshaun Watson territory, guys. I mean, 275, 200 guaranteed. I mean, he didn't even play very good last year.
No. down the stretch, that team was horrible. We were obviously watching intently as we were trying to see who we're going to play in the playoffs. And it was just Jacksonville could not move the ball to save their lives in that last game.
Yeah.
It's weird because Doug Peterson's first year, they turned it on in the second half of the year and finished real strong.
Very different.
And then the exact opposite his second year, where they started off great. They were like 9-3 or whatever, and just faltered down the stretch.
It gave the Chiefs a run for their money the year before, right?
Sure did.
So
I feel like that is just indicative, though, of like how hard it is to find even just a quarterback that you can have for a couple of seasons. So if you do have one, you are holding on to it, and that is the going rate. You got to keep beating those contracts and keep paying those guys, and just kind of the world of the quarterback right now.
Yes, it is. It's the world of the quarterback for years, and it's why the Browns ended up in the situation they're in, is because a quarterback became available, and they did everything they could to get him, and here we are. So another Abby is too good for us. All right.
Everyone's being so nice.
Yes, they are. All right. Thank you, guys. You guys have been great. Thank you all in the chat for participating in the show tonight here on All Eyes on Cleveland. Made up for a good show here, and I promise to everybody in the chat we'll have Abby back sometime. So I'm sure.
Thanks for having me.
If you're down to come back again sometime, Abby, that would be awesome. Make sure you follow her on Twitter at Abby_Mueller. And listen to her podcast, Just a Girl from Cleveland, where all popular podcasts are found. Of course, you know Big Case Dog, Casey Kinnamon, mandatory case tonight. And follow him at Casey Kinnamon, Barking Browns, Off the Leash podcast, and here on All Eyes on Cleveland every Thursday night. For everybody at the OBR, we are going to get out of here. Thank you for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe on your way out. Tell a friend. This has been another edition of All Eyes on Cleveland. For Abby, Casey, I am Brad Ward. We are out.